Hey, Chicagoland real estate investors. The way that you set rent can set the tone for the entire investment that you have. And I want to talk to you about today of how not squeezing every last dollar out of every unit can also ultimately make you more money and lower your stress drastically. Hi, I'm Mark Ainley, partner, founder, GC Realty Development, also co-host of Chicago's #1 real estate investing podcast, Straight Up Chicago Investor. You got to check that out. But today we want to talk about rental rate. I talked to a lot of landlords. Even I fell victim to this in my own properties. Maybe I'm too close to it, but I'm able to coach and counsel a lot of other real estate investors to really look at what we're going to talk about today. Because when you go to the market, everyone wants the most rent, right? You didn't buy this property or this building to not make as much money as you can. But at the same time, sometimes we're all guilty of, I love this saying, stepping over dollars to pick up pennies. And when it comes to setting your rent rate or trying to push a rental rate, it's super important. So, first and foremost, keep in mind the best tenants, the best qualified tenants will gravitate to the best priced, best looking places. And usually the best price there's a correlation there between best looking places when people are searching. But think about this. I just said the best tenants, the best qualified tenants, that's who you want. And they're going to want to go to your unit. It's really hard for people on paper to see, oh, my unit's this much better, but you're asking $150 over everyone else in the neighborhood. So most of the time they'll go see everything else before they go see yours. Or they might not even make it to yours because they rent something out in the meantime. So keep this in mind. The three big things around setting your price too high that can really hurt you ends up being, it takes you longer to rent the place out. Think about this, especially in the off season here. We just went through this here in the end of 2025, where you have, a bunch of clients that might have, or a bunch of investors that might have chased the market down in the fall, and they dropped their price, but they just probably started too high. And now you're coming on the market. You're trying to bring a property on the market in October, and you can't be where they're at. You have to be just below where they're at. So we had a townhouse in Schaumburg where there's 5 other properties, 5 other listings in that neighborhood, and it ended up being everything was right around 33 to 3,400, 33 to 3,500, and we came on right away at 3,250, and we offered a week free rent. We got our place listed in basically 3 days, and here we are. I think it's 3 months later, and 2 of those listings are still on the market. They're hovering around the 3,300, 3,400 mark. So. We were able to get in and out and kind of sneak below. Because think about this: if you're going to have so many people move into any neighborhood or any city in any given period of time, you could talk about weeks, months, whatever. And if you're not one of those people, based on the inventory, and there's too much inventory, then you got to make sure you stand out against your competition. In that particular situation, it was in Schaumburg, and it's like, all right, we've got 5 listings on there. We're going to be number 6. I want the next person to come along to rent our place. I don't want to take the chance that we're going to fall in the minutia of these other 5 units and we could potentially stay on the market. So, faster leases, faster leases ends up meaning they move in faster, you're collecting rent faster, your utilities are coming out of your name faster, going into the tenant's name. You're lowering your risk around, it's the winter, pipe breaks, all that stuff, summer, break-ins, or even squatters, the S word. So, keep that in mind. Secondly, better tenants. We were just talking about that. The best tenants gravitate to the best price places. When you have an overpriced, one way you know that you're overpriced is if you continue to get crappy applications. Think about this. If I just said all the best tenants go to the best price places, that leaves tenants that are less than qualified, maybe not as attractive, maybe they have some baggage. That leaves them to fall in place and go apply or view everything else. And I always tell owners, don't be everything else, because ultimately if you put a lackluster tenant in there, it's going to cause other issues. They might move out after a year. They might, they're going to cause more damages. They're going to give you a harder time around different things around your house. Like, it just ends up being a slippery slide by having to accept somebody less than what you're looking for as far as an awesome tenant. So. Lower turnover, I just kind of mentioned that. So when tenants are happy and they found the place they want, they tend to stay longer. If tenants are just going for finding whatever they can because they need a place to live for the family, they might find your place, move in there, and be like, okay, a year, I'll plan on moving, but I need this right now for my family. So keep that in mind. If you're overpricing it, there's a good chance that you're going to have a higher turnover. So all of this. And I'm not even mentioning what's happening to you along the process. So if you're a self-managing owner or you're a broker, this is stressful. So you're putting it on the market, you keep dropping it, or a lot of investors fail in setting the price right, so they chase the market down, especially in the end of the season, August, September, October. It's like they should have came on the market at 2,000, but they came on at 2,200. But then September comes and they drop it to 2,000. But now it's September, they should have dropped it to 1,800. So chasing the market down is something that just adds so much stress. Underwriting applicants that are less than attractive, that's stressful in itself. Having to go show the property 24 more times than you really had to. Maybe you don't live close to the property. Maybe you even do live close to the property, but just the fact that you have to allocate this much time on a weeknight after work, on the weekends, taken away from family time, to go show it becomes frustrating, stressful. And ultimately, in the end of the day, if you look at these things, if you're not leasing it faster, if you're not getting better tenants and you're having more turnover, you're not gonna make more money. So the whole idea around this video here today was to talk to you about pricing it right. We have a little calculator that we put together, and if anyone wants it, I could always share with you. But what we always try to see is, like, if we price this property today at $3,000 and it takes 60 days, how much ahead or behind am I if I price it then at 2,800 and it only takes 14 days? And it ends up just being a math problem, right? So you can get that higher number on paper, but if it takes you 90 days to it, how much money did you really lose there versus setting it a little lower and having somebody move in faster? Think about this, $3,000 monthly rent, that ends up being $100 per day that you're losing. So if it takes you another extra 30 days, that's an extra $3,000. You could have hired somebody to go do it for you even in that situation. One final thought here really ends up being that if you are trying to rent your place out and you're trying to figure out the right rental rate, I'll share with you a link below. We have a rental analysis that you can go on there. You can check that, price that out, compare yourself. I think a lot of times investors mess up where they look at what's rented in the last 3 to 6 months versus what's on the market right now. Because someone that's going to look at your unit tomorrow, they're not really looking at what happened the last 3 to 6 months. They're looking at what else they're looking at that day. So if they're going to look at 3 similar townhouses in a neighborhood in Hanover Park, they are going to really compare those to each other. They don't care if something rented for $100 more 2 months before or $100 less. So keep that in mind. You're really only comparing yourself to what's on the market. And if you're on the market, keep an eye on that. So a lot of people will have their property on the market for 60 days. And I even realized that every single thing around them rented out in the meantime, and you're the last guy standing. So, or even units have came on 15 days after you went on the market, and then came off the market before you even got your first application. So keep all those things in mind when you do that. So if you ever have questions about price and rent, I'm always happy to help you. If you don't want to do this, you think about all the time it takes. We figure it takes about 80 to 100 hours in any turnover year for a property between overseeing the work, the leasing, the underwriting, get the new tenant move in, all that stuff. That's a lot of time, and your time is worth money. So if you ever want to outsource that, we can help you with tenant placement anywhere in the Chicago market. If you want to outsource property management as a whole, we can help you with that as well too. And check out the link below. Always happy to help you. And if you just want to just powwow about real estate investing, always happy to as well too. So thanks for checking out this video, and we will talk to you soon.